Hey guys, Elzaya back again with another SOHO podcast. Today we have a special guest, the man, the myth, the legend. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's up, everybody? My name's Renan Leonardi. I'm the new guy here at SOHO. Glad to be here. In my opinion, the HR platform is better than the VHR.
Really?
In my opinion.
So with the VR30, if you could build one for the guys that want to do the late night activities on the streets of Mexico, what would be the ideal setup for one of those? Hey guys, Elzaya back again with another SOHO podcast. Today we have a special guest, the man, the myth, the legend. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's up, everybody? My name's Renan Leonardi. I'm the new guy here at SOHO. Glad to be here.
So, Renan, tell us a little bit about your background.
Right. So I am, I guess you can say, third generation technician. My grandfather was a tech at a Goodyear factory for years, like a career technician. He worked on all the machineries and stuff like that. That's back in Brazil. So after that, my dad began working on cars. Started with his background is mostly like electrician, but he also did a lot of the mechanical side. Had a shop in Brazil for I don't know how many years. Anyways, long story short, we ended up coming to the U.S. back in '98, and we worked for a company called, I say we because later when I graduated high school, I immediately went to work for them as well. It was called Japanese Auto, and we specialized in Japanese cars, mostly Hondas, but we did all kinds of Japanese cars. And then back in 2013, we opened up Leonardi Performance, which is where I came from. I left there and came here. And early on, we didn't really know like where we would specialize as far as like cars, like our niche. But I already had, I think at the time I had the S14. Yeah, I had an S14. It was Starfire blue with ivory interior. Like I think the lady said that I bought it from was like 1 out of 34 in the country. And I always was a Nissan fan. My brother had a 350Z, so one thing led to another. I ended up selling the 240, bought a Z, and then it took off from there. One time we went to a meet called NISFLO, which I don't remember if it was like once a month or once every few months, but I ended up knew nobody. I just heard about the meet and decided to show up. Showed up with my like basically bone stock Z. Made friends with like these 5 other people. We were sitting in like this little group, and like it was us and like a bunch of like weird kids and then old people. And we're like looking around, I'm like, we don't really fit in anywhere here. It was like a girl with it was a white V1 Nismo Z34 and some other cars. Anyways, we started talking and we're like, why don't we make our own club? And so we did. And we also, because it was only Z's, it was like a Z only club, we decided to incorporate the G's as well. So we started a South Florida Z&G car club. Dude, the thing took off. Like at one point we were like 800 strong. We would roll out to Cars and Coffee. One time we rolled out with like the Mustang people called us out. We showed up with like, I think we counted like 98 cars to Cars and Coffee, parked all together. Like it was awesome. And then like people started to move away and it kind of wavered a little bit, but by that time we had already established a niche in the shop. I didn't make the club in the hopes of like monopolizing the Z market in South Florida, but people would come up to me and be like, hey, who works on your car? I do, I have a shop. And then one thing leads to another. So we became well established in the Nissan community in South Florida. And that's how I got to know Nick, SOHO Motorsports. We did a lot of SOHO kits back at the shop, and one thing led to another. After 2013, so that's, my math sucks. What is it, 12 years? Yeah, 12 years. The time just felt right. I moved, packed everybody in the moving van and moved the whole family up here, and here we are, loving it.
Great. So one thing I want to touch on is you talked a little bit about your background with like Nissans. Was Nissans your first choice, and how did you get into Nissans?
So again, I worked at a shop that specialized in Japanese cars. But the first job that I had outside of that particular shop, I did spend a year, I think just over a year at Honda. And bro, I was a Honda boy. At that point, like I had a Honda Fit, super fast boy. You know, I Honda was like my go-to chassis. What happened is I ended up quitting the dealership, went back to the shop that my dad and I worked at before. And then the shop next door had this old rusty. When I'm talking about rusty, like if you closed the door too hard, like rust would fall from the headliner and like land on your head. It was an S13 manual. I think it was like a 93 or 92. The funnest car I've ever had. I would abuse the car like so much. The second day I got it, I gutted it. I was like, I'm going to turn this into a race car. Never did. I gutted it. And those of you who know S chassis, like there's an insulation that goes right underneath the gas pedal. And it's there for a reason because your exhaust runs right underneath there. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't know. I took it all off. So like for years, if you looked at my shoes, like any shoe that I wore, the right side, the heel was melted. Hot foot. That's what I used to call it. But funnest car I've ever had. And then I got the S14 after that. So that's kind of how my Nissan.
So with VQs, because I heard that you had a 350.
Yes.
So you ended up boosting that one. What got you to boosting it?
So I didn't boost that one. Over the years, I had probably like a good, personally, we had, as a shop, we've had many more, but personally, I've owned like 5 or 6 blue Zs. I don't know, didn't make it that way. I didn't want it to be that way. They just all happened to be blue. My brother's Z was also blue. So my first one was an 04 DE that I drove for a long time. That one I basically did bolt-ons. Not even tune. And then I ended up boosting the HR. I bought an HR and was it San Marino blue, which is the only blue that wasn't like the conventional blue Z. Like there's another blue, I'm forgetting the color right now. But anyways, it was an HR. I ended up boosting it. It was a SOHO kit. That was the first ever SOHO kit that we've ever worked on. It was right when you guys did the development for the HR platform. I got one of the first kits. Awesome. It's still there to this day. I sold it to a girl named Chloe. Shout out Chloe. The car's for sale, by the way. If you guys want to buy it, she's selling it. you can cut that part out if I'm not allowed to say it. And
we can keep that in.
Yeah, and it's still going strong. It's a basic setup, so basic fuel mods, fuel return system on a fresh motor. I think we left that at like 12 psi. She's moving.
So what made you go boost with the HR?
HRs love boost. In my opinion, I'm biased, but in my opinion, the HR platform is better than the VHR.
Really?
In my opinion.
So what's the reason?
I don't like the variable valve lift. Although it works beautifully. I like to be able to throw huge cams and run it that way. As a matter of fact, and correct me if I'm wrong, up until a while ago, Nissan race teams would on the 370Z chassis, they would put the 3.7 bottom with like mega cams, HR heads, for that very reason, so they could have more than what the VVL has to offer. But again, I'm not sure how
the hybrid setup.
Well, yeah. So so again, for the Z33 platform, the hybrid setup is the way to go, like what Fresh Kicks had. But even with people running 370Z chassis, they would still opt for the 3.5 heads and just throw massive cams on it.
Really?
Yes.
So I've never seen a hybrid in like a 370 or G37. I've always seen them in like 350 chassis or the G35s.
Right. Yeah, that's usually where people usually do the hybrid setups.
But the hybrid's like it works very well. Even Dylan has said that plenty of times. We got to have Dylan on the podcast as well, too.
Yes, we definitely have to.
Dylan just doesn't like the camera, but we'll drag him out here one day.
For sure. Yes, hybrid's definitely the way to go. NA or boost. before we decided to go with the Soho kit, I wanted to copy Sasha Annis. I don't know if you know him.
I don't think I'm too familiar.
Yeah, he's one of the OGs. I've been following him since he's started developing a DE chassis. At one point, he had like a 400 horsepower DE NA.
Really?
Yeah, and then he moved on to the HR platform.
What color is 350?
It was a 350. Oh, he still has a 350. So the first 350 was like red and white with a red and white livery, and then now I think it's
like silver.
No, I think it's blue or green. I can't remember anymore what color it is. Now it's HR. It's a hybrid HR, making like, again, correct me, don't judge me if I get these numbers wrong, but I think it's a 600 horsepower NA build with a hybrid electric motor that produces another 2.
Jeez.
On a sequential gearbox. It's a track car. Yeah, super sick build. And so at one point I wanted to borrow that setup, and he put me in contact with Jim Wolf from JWT, Jim Wolf Technologies. I called up, talked to Ben, and Ben gave me the rundown, gave me all the pricing, and I was like, if I'm gonna spend this much money to make like not even in the 500s, like I might as well go boost.
Yeah.
And that's when I called Nick and I was like, hey, let me get that kit. Yeah.
So since you had the kit and you installed it, you installed it and everything at the shop, how did that process go? From receiving the kit, be honest, from receiving the kit, receiving the kit, putting it on, and results. Overall, everything.
Right. So it did take a while for me to receive everything. And I understand I think because I got one of the very first ones. So like Soho was still developing their manufacturing, all the stuff. Everything's done in-house. So I get it.
Tell the people, you've seen it.
Yeah, everything is done in-house, people. And believe it, like, despite of popular belief, our team consists of like, 9 people?
Yeah.
Sometimes folks think that we're like 20 guys and girls up here running around all day, and no, it's 9 of us. And then 2 of them are in the fab team. So stuff does take its time. Everything gets quality checked before it leaves here. You ship everything.
Correct.
And so there is, it's, if you're gonna get something that has this quality like we offer, I think it's only fair to accept that there is gonna be a certain lead time. And then there's the stuff that kind of blindsides us. COVID was a huge one.
Yeah, that was a huge one.
That was a huge one. And like, we're still getting like a little bit of repercussions, like little waves of like remnants of stuff from the COVID era. Manufacturers are just being like, hey, guess what? We don't make it anymore. You're out of luck, So, the stuff takes a little while to get to you, but once it does, so moving forward to the installation part, turbo kits are can be notoriously challenging to install in nature, not because of any like defect or variations in the designs. It was challenging. I'm not gonna.
Go ahead.
It's tight, and because of where the turbo kit is, you have to be very careful and very specific of how you insulate everything, especially the fueling stuff. Once that's in, the kit is like amazing. Once it's in, it's very easy to tune. I think the first tune was done by someone else. The second time we tuned it, Nick actually tuned it. Car ran super hard. And like I said, this was back in 2018, before COVID, well before COVID. It's still running to this day. It would have been running with the same motor that I had. Now, mind you, I had that car NA for a while. I did many track days with it, NA, daily abused. Then I was like, let me boost it. And then abused it some more, and it's still going strong. Same turbo, never had to swap the turbo, never had any issues with the turbo. Piping, one time I had a crack on it, but I think it's because at one point I bottomed out. Sent it back to Soho. They shipped one back the same week for me. It was done. It was the wastegate. Where the wastegate goes.
Like the dump tube or the flange?
The flange for the wastegate cracked, but again, I bottomed it out. They had it back to me again the same week. at the time, and that's it, man. It's, like I said, to this day, still running solid. It is on a fresher motor now, because what happened is she parked the car for over a year, and the seals in the water pump dried out. And when she got the car, started running the car again, developed a water pump leak. And then she was like, you know what? Since it's so much labor to change the water pump, let me just put a fresh motor. So that's what we did. We got a JDM motor, we threw it on in there, and still solid.
So overall, was the weight and everything worth it?
10 out of 10. I mean, we worked with other turbo kits as well. Recently, we had a car that's actually coming here, with a fast intentions kit. Mm-hmm. She waited quite a while for that kit as well. So, install, we had to drop the motor. Mm-hmm. So, there is no easy way to do turbos. Mm-hmm. If you want easier,
bolt-ons is the way.
Bolt-ons is the way, or the supercharger.
Yeah.
The supercharger is nowhere near as involved as the turbo kit is, for sure.
Well, both superchargers and the turbo kits, I feel like anyone could do them at home, but if you're not super mechanically inclined, supercharger all the way.
10 out of 10.
All the way.
Very difficult to get that wrong if you can read and follow basic instructions.
Correct.
And not to mention, like, we've had situations where like something gets a little. We had a situation recently where the G37 has a different piping layout on the front, on the intercooler piping, than the 370Z. But on the manual, it's a 370Z. So when when I was still back at the shop, mm-hmm. we were laying everything out. We couldn't figure out, like, it didn't look like the picture. Picked up the phone, Justin answered. It's like, Justin, like, it's not like how there's something going on here. He's like, oh, it's because it's different on the G37. It goes like this. We're like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, if something is not on the manual, which we are working on the installation manuals to kind of incorporate any and all variations that the kits may have with the different chassis, anyone's more than welcome to pick up the phone, talk to me, talk to Justin, Nick, whoever. And
when you're at the other shop, and if there was any issues or anything like that, when you called here, how was the customer service overall? And be honest.
Be honest, or you're fired. He's pointing a gun over here underneath the table. He's like, oh, Nick is right there. I can't say anything bad. So early on, it was more Nick on the phone, and then Justin came in, and it was more Justin. Mm-hmm. Nick obviously knew everything there was to know about the kits, and Justin is, if possible, even more. Like, the guys are like an encyclopedia of knowledge. I'm over here like a little sponge sitting next to him, just like absorbing all the different tidbits. Part of the reason is because he was largely part of the development mm-hmm. of these kits, so he knows them like intimately, like the ins and outs of it. I come more from an installation side, and even though we had several kits put on by us at the shop, I haven't been fully exposed to like all of the options that the kit has. Mm-hmm. Like the Recirc kit. Yeah. That's a brand new. Is it a brand new thing?
So the Recirc kit, we developed that shortly after we did the standard G37. Okay. We did it. Well, I think the first one we did was on a G37, but because a lot of people talk, we listen. So a lot of people wanted to like basically delete the blow off sound, and that's when Justin designed that kit.
Right.
So
see, there you go. Yeah. And we did one recently, right?
Yeah, we did one recently.
If anyone is opposed to getting a supercharger kit because they don't like the whooshing sound, 10 out of 10 Recirc. It adds a whole different dimension and level to the sound. Like, I always said, any type of blower, any type of like centrifugal blower has the best of both worlds. Like, you get the turbo sounds, you get the psh, the release, and you get a little bit of the whine of the supercharger. It's even more so with the Recirc. You just don't get that constant whooshing all the time.
Correct. The Recirc is like really like a sleeper's kit. Mm-hmm. A sleeper, or like someone that daily drives their vehicle that doesn't like loud sounds.
Right. Yeah, the whooshing all the time. If you're like, more of a casual driver can get a little overwhelming. With the recircuit,
it's like gone.
Barely. And you get more of the whine instead, especially at lower RPMs.
That is true. So with the VR30, if you could build one for the guys that want to do the late night activities on the streets of Mexico, what would be the ideal setup for one of those?
Like max effort?
Max effort.
Okay. Turbos from...
There's like 3 different companies that sell turbos.
Right. So those turbos, full down pipes, flex fuel, big injectors, upgraded high pressure, low pressure pump, intakes. I mean, you get something good. I don't think it matters that much.
What are some good brands?
I always liked AMS. A lot of people talk trash about them. Z1 makes a version of them. Even the forward facing ones. Do we even have forward facing intakes for the new Z?
We don't have yet, but soon enough they'll be in production.
So I know that a friend of mine in South Florida has a new Z. It's a company called Boosted 6 Auto. He's developing shorties for it. I think he's close to releasing them. Basic setup. It's literally just little shorty intakes with a nice, decent heat shield. And that one is going to do the Lord's work for sure. It's free flowing. It's going to sound good. You hear all that spool. So that with a good differential and just gut everything.
Is there like any company that makes for the intakes? Do they make like silicone front mount ones?
He had talked about it, Boosted 6 Auto. I'm not sure that someone ever did. And another interesting thing too, the whole reason of putting them in the front was heat soak.
Yeah.
Heat soak is a big thing. So
and it helps with the IATs.
Right. So what his testing has shown, and I guess people need to also do their own testing and figure this out. If you put even shorty intakes that sit in the engine bay, what really controls IATs is how efficient your coolers are. So like if you're gonna do like I think Mishimoto has one.
How are the stock charge coolers? Are they good?
Up until a certain point. If you're dealing with upgraded turbos, they're not gonna. You get 1 or 2 good hits with them, and then everything gets yeah. So, but if your dilemma is where should I put my intakes, honestly focus on your coolers.
There's also the other company, SOHO. They do that air to air.
Yeah, I mean that kind of solves all the problems right there. Who knows, And we'll be showcasing what that setup can do in our new Z coming soon. Stay tuned.
So that was a great pod. We have to do another one.
Absolutely. We should do one just about BMWs.
Yeah, just about BMWs. Aiden's gonna love that one.
Yep. Maybe we should do one about Fords, right?
No. All right. Well, thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it, man.
Hopefully we'll have you on soon again.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.